So I am currently deconstructing religion, specifically Christianity, the religion that I grew up on. This is just something that I've noticed over the years being in the church and being around devout Christians, um, that the whole concept of having blind faith, I feel as though they equate having blind faith to the elimination of critical thought on who they worship, how they worship, why they worship, and even what they worship. And I say that because I've seen it play out time and time again. Being in the church, I've noticed people that have had contradicting beliefs on sermons that their pastor has preached that didn't align with their moral, ethical, or human beliefs. But because it came from their pastor, somebody that's ordained by God, that has the closest, most powerful relationship with God, they negated their actual moral and ethical feelings for what the pastor was telling them. And they said that they do that because he has so-called more authority. And this is actually one of the reasons why I left the church, because I'm a critical thinker. So I have questions, and I have questions for days. But pastors and church folk hate questions, because then they would actually have to do the work and give you an answer. But instead, they just give you BS and tell you that they have more authority and they've been walking with the Lord and had a longer walk than you, so they understand him more. Which didn't actually answer my question. It just left me still confused. I just want to follow that up with a story. I happened to be taking an Uber one Sunday morning, and I got in an Uber with the gentleman. And he asked me how I was doing, and I told him that I was blessed because some people don't get to see this. He agreed with me, and then we started talking about church and religion, and I basically expressed my belief, which is that people that seek out religion, they don't feel that connection with God, so they have to look outward. But people that are more spiritual, they go within themselves because they understand that God is within them, right? And him being a churchgoer, he completely agreed with me. And then he went on to tell me a story. So before he told me the story, he basically told me, as a Christian, one of his biggest fears is going to hell, right? And then after he told me that, he then tells me a story, and he says, one day I had a dream. I had a dream that I died and I was in purgatory, and I was waiting to go into heaven, or so he thought. And he gets to the front of the line and they tell him, well, you're going to hell. They look on the list and they tell him, well, you're going to hell. And he was like, what do you mean I'm going to hell? Like, that don't make no sense. I did everything that my pastor said. I followed everything that my pastor said. The angel looked on the list and said, your pastor is here too. And he said that now opened his mind to actually study the word for himself and not just listen to what his pastor said, because his pastor ain't the most Christ-like person either. And quite frankly, that's what I think God wants us to do. He wants us to study the text for ourselves. It's okay to go to church and then listen to how your pastor interprets it. But at the end of the day, it is an interpretation. And they have whatever experiences, whatever knowledge that they have, and they're also putting their personal experiences into the interpretation. So I just challenge people to think more critically and actually look in the Bible themselves and interpret it for themselves so that they get a better understanding and get a better connection with God.